168. That's the number of hours in a week. If you work full-time, 40 hours a week, you will spend almost 25% of your time for the next however many years from now until you retire working. Your work could be in the trades, a factory setting, a professional setting, a business, or a nonprofit organization. For ease of speaking, I will refer in this video to businesses and nonprofit organizations as an all-inclusive term for any work setting, as they represent the two broad categories of jobs. No matter the work setting, you will be communicating, creating and sharing meaning with others, verbally and in written form. To be successful, you need to be good at communicating. The communication will most likely be in the following four areas. 1. Instrumental communication, or the daily conversation about functioning in your job and what needs to be done. 2. Planning communication, or setting out plans and goals. 3. Interpersonal communication, or the communication that takes place between interdependent people, such as relationship conversations or even conflict resolution. And finally, number 4, persuasive communication, or communicating with a specific intent or motive to convince others. As we have consistently said in this video series on persuasion in your life, you cannot avoid persuasion. It is everywhere and a part of any and all work settings. Today, we're going to address persuasion in business and nonprofit organizations. Our goal will be to explore why persuasion is such an important part of any business or nonprofit organization, and to understand when and how to successfully and effectively use persuasion in these settings. First, let's look at why persuasion is such an important part of any business or nonprofit organization. To understand this, we need to talk about the reason businesses and nonprofit organizations are created in the first place. For-profit businesses are created to meet a need. Someone looks at the marketplace and sees a need, has an idea, and sees a product that can solve that need. To get a business started, capital is needed. That capital is comprised of both money and time. If the business is to continue meeting that need, capital for reinvestment and to create a return on investment for the investor or investors is required. The reality is that a business must make a profit over expenses to continue to operate. The product of the business must be marketed and sold to the public to create this profit. Why is this important? The reality is that for a business to continue to operate, it must continually be successful in marketing its product. This creates a need for persuasion. Persuasion is communicating with an intent or motive, and the public needs to be persuaded to purchase the product of the business. Let's shift gears and talk about nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations, just like businesses, are also created to meet a need. And just like businesses, capital, meaning money and time, is invested to create the nonprofit organization. If the nonprofit organization is to continue meeting a need, capital will continue to be needed. This reality also creates a need for persuasion. The public needs to be persuaded to continue investing money and time into the organization if the need is to be continued to be met. What this discussion tells us is that without persuasion, businesses and nonprofit organizations would cease to exist. You need all the other types of communication, but persuasion is the fuel that fires up the engine. As an individual who will participate in a business or a nonprofit organization of some type, this means you must use persuasion in order to be productive and successful. We have talked about why persuasion is important. Now let's explore when and how to use persuasion in business. There are two important times you will need to use persuasion. The first is in order to get a job, and second, you will need to use persuasion continually in your job. I took the time to explain why persuasion is important in businesses and nonprofits starting and keeping going. Now let's apply this knowledge to getting a job. If businesses and nonprofits need to consistently persuade people in order to keep going, then if you are applying for a job, your job is simple. You have to persuade the business or the nonprofit that you can produce a greater return than the investment they are putting in you by hiring you and paying you. Put another way, if they're going to pay you $50,000 a year, your job in the interview and the hiring process is to persuade them that you can make them $60,000 a year. This profit enables the business or nonprofit to be able to continue meeting the need they saw when they started. So how do you do this? Before you even interview for the job, you start by learning everything you can about the organization. You seek to understand exactly what their goals are and what they need in order for those goals to be met. In the interview, as you answer their questions and pose your own, you frame everything you say with an audience-centered approach. The organization hiring you is the audience, and you are to convince them that you can help them meet their goals. You are solution selling. You are presenting yourself as a solution to their need. This is how to successfully use persuasion to get hired. The second time you need to use persuasion in the workplace is, and listen closely, every single day on the job. If we refer back to what I said about businesses and nonprofits needing to continually to persuade the public to buy their goods or to participate with their time and money in the organization, we know that persuasion is a continual reality. As an employer, a worker, a manager, an owner, or whatever role you play, you need to realize that you must continually be helping the organization to meet its goals. Remember, if a business or nonprofit doesn't meet its goals, it will soon cease to exist. Your job is to keep it going, or otherwise, you will have to find another job. If you work, you need to realize that working is more than just instrumental communication, more than planning communication, more than interpersonal communication. All of these types of communication are important and necessary in the workplace. But you need to step up and realize that whether you are a little cog in the wheel or a big cog in the wheel of the organization, you must use persuasive communication every day. It's like riding a bicycle up a hill. If you stop pedaling, you don't just stay in one place. You will go downhill fast. If you, as part of the team of workers, aren't doing your part every day to help the organization reach its goals, then you and the rest of the team will go downhill fast. 168. That is the number of hours in a week. If you work full-time, 40 hours per week, you'll spend almost 25% of your time for the next however many years from now until you retire, working. Your work, as I said, could be in the trades, a factory setting, a professional setting, a business, or a nonprofit organization. The goal of this video is to persuade you that persuasion is an integral part of any job you will have. Persuasion will be important in your getting the job and in working on the job. Your job is to help make your company or your nonprofit organization effective and successful in reaching its goals. Otherwise, you'll soon be looking for a new job. See you in the next video.